I'm going to go ahead and start slicing off some of these corners to round out his head. So, and this is kind of arbitrary. I might adjust these as I start to work around the form. So I know that this is coming straight down here. Then there's a little angle break right here. And then another one that comes down this way. Because remember, we put these guidelines before, so things might widen a little bit, but they're always going to come to the main point. So there was definitely an angle break right here. We want it to line up with whatever's there. A little bit here. Angle of this feather. So I'm just going around the perimeter, seeing what angles I have, correcting anything that I did that wasn't quite right. This is going to come out like this. I don't know how far, so I just make it a big line. And then I want to hook it up to where I think his belly is. So before I do that, I'm going to go back to the top of his head and kind of start to put in those. That's still good. I'm ignoring his beak right now. And that I know the beak has to come out somewhere in this vicinity, kind of halfway out of his head, more or less. So I'm just kind of ignoring that. I will add that later. I'm just slicing off the corners. That's all. So he's a little less boxy. Anywhere I see there's a slight break in the angle, I try to capture that. All right, and now I'm just going to remove some of these extraneous lines. Anything, I mean, you don't have to erase anything, and when I'm out in the field I don't. I work in pen, and so I just go over things all the time. But just for sake of clarity, if it kind of messes with what you're looking at, then get rid of as many lines as you need to make it clear for yourself where you see the shapes. So I've got kind of the perimeter of my bird in, and I'm comparing it. I'm now taking a moment and I'm trusting my eyes, and I'm looking at what I have in front of me compared to what I have here. And I'm just looking at the shape. I'm not worried about any of the interior shapes like the wings or the tail feathers or anything like that. Just looking at the general shapes. And I might want to check the proportions again. I'm still liking this for the top, this for the bottom of the auriculars. Yeah, I can bring that up a little. I could bring that up a little. All right, I'm still happy with that. All right, now I want to check the overall to make sure when I kind of put this part in that I didn't mess with that angle from his forehead to his breastbone. And I did. I'm going to kind of slice that off a little. Just double check that. Yep, so I'm liking that a lot better. All right, now I'm going to look in terms of, I've got his head, so I'm going to look to see where I would place his eye. if I am going to the bottom of the auriculars to the bottom of his eye and then the bottom of his eye to the top of his head, it's pretty much centered. So let's see what we got here. All right, that's pretty good. And now I'm doing the same thing, going to where the top of his beak. Actually, I'm not doing it that way because I haven't actually decided where I'm putting his beak, and I can't until I put the eye in. So if I go to take this subunit right here, and I go from the bottom of the auriculars to the bottom of the eye, and then the back of the head along the bottom of the eye to like the front of the eye, this distance is the same as this distance. Okay, so his eye is going to live somewhere right here. And I'm just going to put it in. I'm not erasing these marks so much as I'm just lightening them up because I might need to move things as I'm putting in his beak. And then I'm going to use that unit of measurement that's my stable one to measure how far his beak is supposed to be out. So here we go again. Top of the head, bottom of the auriculars. Those are his cheek feathers. Back of his head, under his eye. And I'm measuring it to the top of it, where the top of his beak hits his face. And then from the top of his beak, where it hits his face, out. It's almost between like a quarter and a third, 1 1/4 and a third. So if I'm doing this, we know that this is the same width. And it's somewhere in this vicinity here. So I'm just going to put a little mark right here. And then I'm going to use this corner to triangulate the end. And so I'm putting my pencil right where his throat curves into his breast. And I'm measuring that angle where his beak is, where the tip of his beak is. And it helps if you close one eye. So I'm thinking it's right there, but we'll see. And then I'm just going to measure from the bottom of his eye just to kind of get that angle. Most of the time the bird, it's kind of a straight line, depends on the pose. And then the bottom of the eye to the top of the beak kind of also helps me triangulate where that is. And then the top of the beak to where I think maybe the top of the eye is. This may change because I'm not sure if that's all right. Okay, so here I kind of have ballpark where I think everything is on him, except his wings. Where I think his eye is, where I think his beak is. Next, I'm going to put in where I think his wings are. So luckily for us, there is a nice line from where his shoulder wraps around. So remember, he's a bird in the round. And so while the feather, this wing feather kind of comes out here, it's going to be kind of a semicircle, or not a semicircle. It's going to be a curve because it curves over his back. And so we're going to put that in as a curve. And we're going to check that angle. I might make that curve a little higher. Take this one out. Okay, it gives me an idea where the end of his wing feathers are. And then put this in. That's the good angle for his primaries. I'm going to double check those. And they came down pretty long, almost to the base of that tail. Nope, they're actually right here. And then what you see here are secondary feathers. So they kind of come this way, and then this little bit right here are the primary feathers on the other side of his body. And I want to see what the angle is between the two. So see, that should end here, but I need to double check that. So if I take that measurement, bottom of the auriculars, top of the head, that's my stable, and I follow it down this line, it's going to be 2 head lengths. So 1 and 2. Yep. So I need to bring this down a little. And then if I compare the angle of this to this, it's right. All right. Hello, all the new people who joined. Oh, he got lost in measure. Renee says she got lost on measuring the branch distance. Did you find it again, or just take your whatever you're using as your stable measurement, your unit of measurement, which for me was the top of the head to the bottom of the auriculars, and then measure from where his belly is to the branch. But do that on your reference first. And for me, it was somewhere between like a third and a half, more like a third. So that's how I determined. But we're going to double check that anyways, and I'll show you how. Although, Renee, you know how I'm going to do that. Spoiler alert. While you all catch up or work hard, I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. And I'm going to grab a fresh pencil with a fresh, sharp, whatever. Okay, so this is the part where you really have to trust yourself. We're going to pick up some of this graphite. And don't worry, if you don't have a kneaded eraser, you can take a plastic eraser and really gently go over your marks. You don't want to erase them all. We're just going to kind of lighten them up a little bit. Unless you're working really light, then, you don't have to do this. But we just want to lighten this up because now we're going to go through and we're going to look at our reference, look at our marks, and we're going to trust our eyes and our observation to tell us if we've got things in the right place. I always think this sets it up. We've got everything more or less in the right place. But now we're going to observe and train our eyes to judge those distances.